Hey, it's show and tell. Today I want to show you the plague doctor and I want to tell you about him. Back in the 1700s, Europe was devastated by the plague. It killed about a third of the population. It was believed that this disease, which is actually caused by a bacterium that is transmitted by fleas that live on rats, but it was believed that it was caused by a miasma, or bad air. And that's why doctors who administer to the sick were dressed in this fashion. The hat indicated that they were a physician, typical physician's hat. They carried a stick with which they would prod patients and very often keep them at a distance to make sure that they were not transmitting their bad air, which actually was not such a ridiculous thing because coughing and sneezing could indeed transmit the disease, which is also the reason that they wore this long coat. And that could have been beneficial too, because it would also keep the fleas away. But what's really interesting though about the plague doctors was the mask that they wore. And it had this bird-like beak. The idea was to protect them from inhaling the bad air, the miasma. The reason for the long beak was that it could be filled with various herbs, things like lavender, for example, and that as the miasma or the bad air passed over these, it would take out the evil from the air and it would protect the wearer of the mask. Again, not totally ridiculous, because it did protect the doctor from the sputum and sneezing and phlegm that were excreted by some of the plague patients. So this was a very early method in order to cut down on infection, although they didn't realize that it was an infection because the germ theory would not come until much later. But today, the idea of the physician, the plague physician, is still with us because in Venice, for example, at many carnivals, people dress up in the costumes of the plague physician. The mask idea, of course, is still with us. And of course, we learned during COVID to live with the mask. And the reason, of course, was to protect us and to protect others from, I guess, the bad air, right? Because the disease could be transmitted by tiny, tiny little droplets in the air. So that, for today, is our show and tell. And now you know the story of the plague doctor and why they wore these bird-shaped beaks.